Well, hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and to my preview of the 2022 Caulfield Cup. Just to give you a little bit of context about this, I'm going to be using the WAGON wheel as an assessment tool, measuring the quality of the horses with their form and jockeys and their preparation, I guess, for the race. And just a reminder that I did bring this to you last year when I looked at trying to find the winner of the 2021 Melbourne Cup, and introduced you to the WAGON wheel tool, which did take into account considerations of the level of favouritism for the horse and whether the barrier it was drawn in was good, fair or bad, what sort of form it brought into the race by looking at the total of the last three results for the horse, a consideration of the weight it was carrying compared with whether it was down in class or up in class or running in the same class, and also giving you the option to give it credit for having one on the track where you get 3 points, one at the distance for 8 points if it's a heavy track, which is very likely to be the case on Saturday, 5 points for the horse's ability to handle that track, and the option to allocate 10 points or maybe a fraction of that if you think the jockey is a superior jockey compared to others in the race. Whatever the case, we did apply that to the Melbourne Cup, and it did quite a good job of breaking the horses up into those that could win and those that couldn't. The top pick didn't do very well. Twilight Payment finished 11th, but the first, second, third and fourth place getters in the Cup lie within the top 6 or 7 from these ratings. And so, you know, had you been smart enough to do something like box up those 7 horses in a Quinella, that would have cost you $21. Could have got back about $21.80 on Super Tab for that. Boxing them up in a trifecta would have cost $210, or a portion of that, whatever fraction you wanted to take, that got you back for $36.20. And if you box them up in the first 4, or whatever fraction of it you wanted to take, but if you took it for $1 unit, would have cost $840, and it paid $5,413.50. So if you did something like put $10 on the Quinella, $10 on the trifecta and $10 on the first 4, then your total return would have been $95.60, which is quite a nice little return for a little bit of fun and not too much of an outlay. So when we get up near the Melbourne Cup, I'm going to do this again, but I did last year have a bit of a practice run with this on a few races leading up to the Melbourne Cup. And the very first one that I did was the Toorak Handicap, and that's from last year, and it quite clearly established I'm Thunderstruck as the top pick in the race, 7 points clear of Dice Roll, which didn't run any good. But when you look at the results, I'm Thunderstruck did win the race comfortably, starting price of $3.20. So the WAGON wheel approach did pick the winner of that race. So this year, I thought I'd better have a bit of a go at the Toorak Handicap as a starting point for using the WAGON wheel. And on screen you can see the ratings with my latest version of the WAGON wheel. It came up with Tuvalu as the standout from Gentleman Roy and Military Expert. And so as a result of that, I've had a bit of an investment, had $7.50 on a boxed trifecta with the top 4 horses there. Then I stood out Tuvalu with 9 and 11 to run a second in a Quinella, and then I just had $5 on Tuvalu to win the race. Well, Tuvalu did win the race, so the Wagons picked the winner, and it got very, very close to getting the trifecta and the pick 4. Unfortunately, Law of Indices, which was not selected, snuck into second place, and so the trifecta and the Quinella didn't do any good at all. But moving on to the point of the video, we've got the Caulfield Cup running on Saturday. It's going to be, appears to be, a very heavy track. This is my latest version of the WAGON wheel. I've done some modifications to it, and I'll put this on Google Sheets and link you to it in the video description, so you will be able to download it, and there'll be instructions on how to do that. If you read the video description carefully, it will show you what you need to do to be able to get this onto your desktop if you haven't already got it there. But this particular approach that I've taken takes into account the favoritism or the level of favoritism for the horse its barrier position, total of its last 3 runs. Is it up or down or running in the same class? 3 points for winning at the track, 8 points for winning at the distance. And I have not included in here anything to do with wet track performance. So, you know, you could put something like that in there if you wished. And I haven't got anything in here to do with any of the jockeys being any better than the others. But there is a little bit of an engine behind this. And when you download the spreadsheet, you'll see what the engine looks like. It's sort of stuck over on the right hand side of the spreadsheet, and you can see how the calculations are made. Whatever the case, it's come up with Smokin' Romans as the clear winner of the race in front of horses 1, 2, 3 and 5. So I'm thinking about doing something like boxing these 5 up in a trifecta and a pick 4. Probably just put $5 onto each of those. I'll have a little bit, maybe $5 on Smokin' Romans for the win, or maybe perhaps $10 on Smokin' Romans for the win, and $5 on each of the trifectas and the pick 4, and hope that I get very lucky. Now that's my version as I sort of modified it over a period of time. What I've done is gone back to the original wagon wheel that I presented at the end of October in 2021 and run the numbers for you, and this will also be on Google Sheets and you'll be able to download that to your desktop as well. And then using the original iteration, it does come out with Smokin' Romans as a big standout way out in front of the rest of the field. Now I've actually allocated a 2-point bonus in here because Jamie Carr is riding Smokin' Romans, and I do believe she is the best jockey in Australia, not by a lot because Damien Lane and James McDonald are also excellent jockeys, but wow, she just seems to get the horse to settle well. And this horse is drawn in barrier 5, it's got a perfect barrier draw, very lightweight down here. Horse number 17, it's only carrying I think about 51.5 kilo, there we go. And it's one at the track and one at the distance. And I had a little pricing structure in there. According to that calculation, the wagon wheel is suggesting that it should be around about $2.50, and right now it's trading at $4.60, and it has 5 other horses that it comes up with as being possible chances of winning the race. Now over time, and I think there was like about 130 or 140 races that I covered before I basically put the wagon wheel to bed for a little while, because it's just stopped performing well once we got into sort of the winter racing. Never ever did it find a winner at a price greater than $15, and so therefore you know, down here for example, even though it's rating Durston at $8.26, it doesn't come up with it as being a bet because Durston is just too long a price. But it's up to you to decide what you want to do with this. It's just a tool to help you work out the wheat from the chaff, I suppose, in this particular race. Now, you know, using this particular version of the wagon wheel, I would probably be doing something like standing out Smokin' Romans to win, and then boxing up these other 5 horses to run 2nd and 3rd, or 2nd, 3rd and 4th in a pick 4. Maybe boxing up all 6. And okay, so if you're only putting $5 or $10 on a trifecta or a pick 4, you're only going to get a very small percentage of the final dividend if you happen to get it, of course. But there you go, just a little bit of fun. You know, I hope that both of these spreadsheets are helpful to you. I do know that a number of my viewers have been using their own versions of this. They've sort of started with it as a basic starting point and then done a little few modifications of their own, and some are saying they're doing quite nicely by using this particular analysis tool. Whatever the case, as I said, both spreadsheets are going to be available on Google Sheets. Download instructions will be in the video description. So happy punting for tomorrow, Caulfield Cup, October the 15th, and coming up in the following week on the Friday, I'll be posting the wagon wheel assessment for the Cox Plate, running on October the 22nd, and then we'll finish up with a look at the Melbourne Cup, Tuesday, November the 1st. Look forward to those things. Thanks for joining me on this. I hope you found it at least enjoyable to watch, if not informative. And so, as always, as I say, I hope you're keeping well, and we'll catch up with you again for the Cox Plate at the end of next week.